Hey, Mom, do you know where your teenager is tonight? Is he just hanging around, huh? You know, let me tell you something. This may look like a typical American teenager, and in fact, he is. He's a high school senior, lives in Los Angeles, hits the beach on weekends. But what you don't know is that this baby-faced kid could be the guy who recently kidnapped a 14-year-old black girl, viciously raped her, tortured her, stabbed her repeatedly before dismembering and stuffing her body in a sewer. You know what the pablum pukers say? We do with a kid, well, we just take the kid and give him some counseling. Send him out the kid again. I'll tell you what I'd do to him. Should we hang this kid? You betcha! Die! Hang in there, Jay. Come on. All right, I'll tell you what. While we're just hanging around here, go let the rope hang there, because I want the hanging prosecutor to know that we've got his rope there. Jim Anders, come on up. All right. Sit down there. Now, Jim Anders is a prosecutor. He comes from the southern part of our country, North Carolina, I believe. South Carolina, all right, well, a little north. And we've got with us at home base, we've got loudmouth number 1, Dr. Phil English, professor of communications at SUNY Plattsburgh. Right. And loudmouth number 1, we have Carl Herman, criminal defense lawyer. Let me start with you first, Jim, if you don't mind, all right? A lot of the pablum pukers maintain that the whole process of executing someone, particularly a teenager, is cruel and inhuman punishment. Is there anything cruel or unusual about zapping some zit-faced kid who's taken a human life?
Well, our United States Supreme Court has said that putting a person to death is a proper means of proper punishment. There's no question of it proper.
Are you saying if the punishment fits the crime?
The punishment should fit the crime in every case, and there are some crimes that are so terrible. I've been involved with some myself where execution was really the only appropriate punishment.
I remember that one crime on a show that you did with us before, that young 15-year-old girl who was attacked so heinously with the log and everything. Carl, let me come to you a second. Is there any distinction between a heinous crime committed by a 17-year-old and that committed by a 21-year-old? In both cases, the victim is just as dead, and of course, being 21 doesn't mean you're a rocket scientist.
Well, that's true, but I think we've always treated children differently in this country. They're treated differently in terms of voting age, in terms of whether or not they can drink alcoholic beverages, whether or not they can be drafted to serve our country. And so I think there's a tremendous difference between a 21-year-old and a 17-year-old for those reasons, and also in terms of maturity. We all recognize that teenagers are not as mature as adults and should not be held to the same standards as adults.
All right, but is that because as society has evolved over a number of years, we have placed less and less responsibility on children? As we go back into the, for instance, into the early ages, the middle ages, children married regularly at 14 and 15 years old, held regular jobs, had responsibilities. Have we just started to coddle up and all of a sudden decide that this was a resource that we didn't want to touch until it was 21?
No, I think it's a recognition that children are simply different than adults in terms of their attitudes and their maturity. I agree with you. Years ago, we used to think that children were dispensable. People would have large families on farms. People would have 10 children, 2 or 3 would die in childbirth. They continue to have children. But I think we've come a long way. Children no longer work in the mines. We don't have them working in the sweatshops. I think we respect everybody more, and we respect children more than we used to.
Jim, let me come back to you. As a prosecutor...
Can I say one thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
We're not talking about children. We're talking about adolescents, and there's a lot of difference. not talking about 6, 7, and 8-year-old children.
Is the
We're talking
cognitive
about
reasoning
people
power there as adolescents?
We're talking about people that know right from wrong. People that are able to make major decisions. People are able to take lives. And they have to have the same responsibility as the other citizens.
Well, Mr. Anders, are you here, as usual, trying your cases in the national media and leaving it up to your assistants to do the real work? Will you generate a lot of sensation? Will you generate your usual sensation-seeking headlines that do nothing to resolve the problem? Go back and do the work that you're supposed to be doing instead of leaving it up to your assistants.
He resolves problems. He saw that a slimy teenage punk got the electric chair and fried. What have you done? Write your little theses? Have your little committee?
What I've done is I've been out there opposing this and fighting for the right. For the right.
That's on you.
I've been out there fighting for the right.
Let me ask you a question, Jim. As a prosecutor,
I'd like
you were
to respond.
You want to respond to him? Go ahead.
This gentleman, I finished the case early this morning. The jury came in early, and the person was sentenced to 50 years for killing 2 small children.
Who did most of the work on that case?
I did that case, sir, and I argued to the jury, and
Who did most of the case, sir?
I did.
Your assistant didn't do most of that prosecuting?
Who does most of your work, huh?
Obviously, you don't know what
Who
you're
does
talking
most of
about.
your work?
I do know what I'm talking about.
Who does most of your work, Professor? Who does most of your work? Huh? Who does
it? I didn't know her fame spread to New Jersey. I just thought she was confined to New York. What do you mean, who does most of my work?
Who does most of your work?
I do my work.
Is that why it's so shoddy? Jim, as a prosecutor...
That's why you have such a small... That's why you have such a small staff,
I'm
Morton.
17-year-old kid to the electric chair. How did you feel? How did you feel when they pulled the switch?
Well, I felt that it was justice, and that's what we're after. In that particular case...
What had that kid done?
He had killed one lady and gone with another 2 people and killed 2 additional people, a total of 3 people, 17 years of age. They were brutal murders.
What was
it was of a 15-year-old, his IQ, it was high enough to be responsible.
What was his IQ?
His IQ was 80, as I recall.
67 to 77. He
bright enough.
So what would you suggest, sir, then? If his IQ was that of a gorilla, do we instead put him in the cage with a gorilla?
You know what we do?
Huh?
You know what we do? You know what we do? What we do is we keep him alive and we study him and we learn whatever it was that motivated him and we avoid it happening again. That's what we do, Mark. That's what we do, Mark.
What is it
That's
about...
what we do.
What is
Didn't your staff tell you that,
What
Mark?
is it about...
Didn't your staff prepare you for that one, Mark?
My staff doesn't have to prepare me like your little undergraduates prepare a moron like you.
You've got a bigger staff than I have students, Miss.
I got a lot of things bigger than you got, pal.
The point is, I don't care who's doing the work. This man is getting convictions, and that's what we need. I don't care if he's doing the work or if he has a great staff that's doing the work. We're getting convictions. These kids should not be let out, and they really have taken a life, and we've got to look at them as people that are responsible for what they do. They've taken away a life. They are liars.
Let me ask Phil. No, forget the card. Let me ask Phil something. Phil, what is it about executing these pretty little blonde-haired boys or women or that bothers you? I mean, do they have to look like Bela Lugosi before we kill them?
What bothers me is that in a so-called civilized, enlightened society, you don't execute your children. You just don't do that.
All you do is abort them. That's better.
When you began, tell me the kind of satisfaction and the kind of revenge, how good the revenge feels when you execute a retarded child. When you prosecute a retarded child like his assistants did in South Carolina.
Well, let me tell you something.
What is the benefit
let
of that?
me tell
How
you
does
something.
that help
I
society?
have a Doberman Pinscher, all right, which has a much lower IQ than any human, all right?
But not...
A much lower. And let me tell you, if it attacked me, if it bit me, I'd kill the son of a bitch. All right? And I love him. I love him. I love them. You just can't loose that type of a thing on society, Phil.
What you are doing is you are comparing then children to dogs, Mort.
No, what you're doing, you are comparing people with low IQ to animals.
No, I'm
Let's
not
study
comparing them to animals.
Let's study them.
I'm not saying study them like animals.
You said study them.
You don't study animals and humans the same way, Mort. You study them differently. You keep them alive and learn whatever it was that motivated them, whatever propelled them. Listen to me now. Listen to me. And do you realize what would happen if we didn't do that with hijackers? Airline pilots can pick a hijacker out of a crowd. Do you realize what we do that with political assassins, and the Secret Service can pull a political assassin out of a crowd because we've kept them alive? Why wouldn't the same thing hold with our young? Why are you so anxious to cut off a valuable resource? And why would these barking seals in the audience want to do that too?
Are you barking seals? Or do you want him, huh? Next, I'd like you to meet the mother of a 15-year-old girl who was brutal. Where is Vicky? Vicky, come here, sweetheart. I'd like you to meet the mom, all right? I'd like you to meet the mom of a 15-year-old girl who was brutally murdered by her poor teenage boyfriend. You hang in for that one, gang, all right? All right. Let me introduce Vicky Crompton, whose daughter was murdered by a teenager, her teenage boyfriend. Vicky, unfortunately, you're here on this program because of that killing. Your daughter was 15, and as painful as it may be, would you please recount that day for us?
Okay. It was September 26th of 1986, and Jenny had gotten off of her school bus at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. She walked home, and she walked into our house, and her boyfriend, who was 18, was waiting inside, lying in wait for her, and he jumped out, and he stabbed her 63 times. My husband returned home about 5 minutes later and walked in the front door and found Jenny dead, covered with blood. Now, her killer was convicted of first-degree murder.
How was he caught?
He had left a footprint in her blood. He had not left a fingerprint in the house. So he had definitely thought he could get away with it. And she had broken up with him about a month previously, and so it was his way of saying, I don't want anyone else to have you, so therefore I want you dead.
How long did this, what kind of a sentence did he get?
Okay, he received a first-degree murder conviction, which is life imprisonment without parole. In Iowa, we don't have the death sentence.
And how soon will it be before he can get out?
In 14 years, he gets his first appeal hearing, or his first parole hearing.
Mm-hmm. So he might not get it then, but he might get it a couple of years later.
Mm-hmm.
So 60 times, I imagine some experts would tell us, 60 times indicates a deranged mind.
I would think so. I think someone who stabbed somebody else 60 times, I think is clearly crazy.
By the same token, he took plenty of time to make sure he left no fingerprints, plenty of time to get into the house, plenty of time to sequester himself, to jump the girl, to attack her. Could not the frenzy have come when he came down with the knife the first time and saw that he had drawn blood and then go crazy stabbing this child? Could that be the frenzy and not that the man was nuts at all?
No, the question is what purpose is going to be served by executing this person? How are we going
to be sure that he never kills anyone else?
Well, that's... The only thing you accomplish by killing somebody like that is, as you said, to make sure he never kills anybody else. Do you deter anybody else? Do you stop the next killing? The truth is that statistics have shown, studies have shown, there's a brutalization effect. When you have an execution, homicides don't go down, they go up. Because people's blood gets riled.
I don't particularly give a damn if crime does go up. I think what you should do is be punishing the killer. Forget trying to rehabilitate him. Punish him for the crime he committed. Jim?
Who cares whether it deters crime or not? That's not the issue. It's punishment. That's the issue.
Well,
let me tell you about a person, Pee Wee Gaskins, who got a death sentence, and it was commuted to life. And do you know what he did on death row after having had his life commuted, or his sentence commuted to life? He killed another person on death row. So apparently, he didn't learn by the process that he went through. He's now on death row, by the way.
Again, good. I hope they get him
and I
this
did
time.
try that case, as I tried my other case.
Was he an adult or was he a juvenile?
He's an adult, but we're talking. You're opposed to capital punishment in any respect,
Yes,
aren't you?
that's right.
Whether they're guilty or innocent.
That's right.
No, no.
Phil, you are too, right, Professor?
Absolutely.
Just against the death penalty.
I think the death penalty has no place in a civilized society.
What would you do if you had a daughter and someone heinously killed them like Vicky's daughter was killed?
Do you think I don't?
What would you do?
Do you think I don't consider that question? Do you think that I don't think about that sort of thing?
Well, I'm asking.
I would be the first.
My daughter's
I would be the first to say to Vicky and anybody else that no one can predict what their response would be in that kind of situation.
I can.
I would like to think. I would like to think. I would like to think that I would be consistent. I would like to think that I would be consistent. That's the only way I can
I'm
answer
sure
that question.
Carl Rowan would have liked to have thought he would have been consistent too.
Yeah, but we
in
keep...
Washington, D.C.
Wave the bloody.
People have got to take responsibility. What we are doing is breeding a generation of young killers because they know that they're going to get away with it. Now, let me tell you something. No, let me say something here.
Well,
My
make some
sister was
sense,
murdered.
and then
Please, sir, I didn't interrupt you once. I was very nice. My sister
Until you
was
say
murdered by
something, you won't
Joseph
interrupt me at all.
Challenger and his 11-year-old son. Joe is now in jail, and his son at 11 never spent one day in jail. Not one. He was adopted by and now is living under an assumed name and is getting a lot of psychiatric care. Well, let me tell you, this boy is going to someday be in the paper again for committing another heinous crime. His own psychiatrists have said this.
What would you do?
Kill him.
Kill him.
He is detrimental.
Morton, it seems you keep letting them push you off the topic you raised. That is, who is responsible? It's a topic you raised here. It's a topic that comes up with your dog. The topic in your case. Who is responsible? Now, I'm not familiar with your case at all. In your case, it seems to me a strong argument can be made that who's responsible was the state of South Carolina. They knew this boy. I'm a psychologist. My name is Mark Seglin. I'm a clinical psychologist. I've worked with this criminal population for many years. Kids like that are
Your
known.
assistants meet people like
They are
that.
known, and the reason they kill is that authorities like yourself do not take the proper responsibility in the proper time.
What
We
is
don't
the
need
proper
conviction. We need
responsibility,
prevention.
Mr. Psychologist? What is the proper responsibility? What is the proper responsibility?
The responsibility Customato took from Mike Tyson. That was a proper responsibility. There was a boy who could have been a violent offender. Somebody reached in, found who he was as a human being, cultivated his resources. Look where he is today. Why aren't more things like that being empowered and helped?
Wait a second, wait a second.
1 out of 16 million guys like Mike Tyson, and he picks them out.
Many, many. But we don't go that route. I just completed a program, a job where we put together these guys, crackheads, alcoholics, people with long criminal records. We put them through a 3-month program.
Real assets to society.
And today they are out earning their living, staying out of trouble, drying up, and yet we got nothing but flack from political authorities, had to move mountains to get any government support, all church-inspired efforts. When you try and get some support for it from the media...
Good, let the churches handle it.
Nothing.
Let the churches handle it. Taxpayers are tired of paying for everyone else's crime. You're going to learn that, you guys. Let me go to Phil. Phil, I want you, take a look at Vicky, all right? Just look her right in the eye.
I've looked at Vicky.
Look at her again, right in the eye, and tell me in your heart of hearts that you really believe that little murderer of her daughter should have walked...
Wait a minute. Are you suggesting to me that I am less of a man than you because I don't believe in executing the young? Because I don't believe in that?
My daughter was executed. What's your answer to that?
And I told you before that nothing that anybody can say can begin to touch the pain that you feel. What I'm concerned with more than anything else is to prevent that from happening again. And I think
So
the
you
best
kill
way...
him.
It happens again.
No,
It happens again by killing the sleazeball that killed her.
No, what you do is you
It happens again by killing the sleazeball.
You learn learn what the sleazeballs causes them to do.
And then kill them.
You don't.
Learn and then kill them.
No.
Learn and then kill them.
The mind...
Fine, I'll let you study. Look, I'm giving in to you. I'll let you study the kid. Then you kill him, all right? Next, we'll hear an unusual alternative for those who escaped the hangman's noose. Stay with us. Now, let's give the good professor a chance to redeem himself, all right? Because he turns out not to be entirely a blithering pablum puker. He's got some ideas. Phil, I understand now you have an unusual theory about what we should be doing to murderers sentenced to life without parole. Of course, I know when I hear this theory that it won't make you sound like Dr. Mengele, but go ahead.
Are you going to let me finish? Will you at least give me that much? At least let me finish.
Go ahead, pal.
Humans are very complex entities. All of us, even Morton, have layers of complexity that need to be explored. Why somebody at a young age would view authority with such low regard, why somebody at that young an age would view human life with such low regard is a question of monumental importance. If we are a civilized nation, if we are a nation concerned with prevention, unlike our brave prosecutor, I believe prevention is the main question. What we have to do is find out what causes it. You don't
what are your experiments?
Let me finish just for a moment, if I may. I have been in a crowd where a Secret Service picked out an assassin, a would-be assassin of President Ford, pulled him out of the crowd and took him away. And I learned later it was because of the profile that they were able to learn from keeping alive people like Sirhan, Artie Bremer, etc. The same thing would hold true for a teenage killer. What is that profile? When we learn that, we will be able to pass that information on to teachers and social workers who can prevent it.
Let's hear
Now you can blow me back to Plattsburgh.
Now, what are the experiments? You said you had experiments.
What's the profile?
I never said experiments.
I say experiments. I mean, you know.
Say experiments. I don't say experiments.
You didn't say experiments, huh?
What I said was study.
You know what I do?
Yeah,
I cut off their unit, put it in a pickle jar, and fry them. Valerie.
So unrealistic. How the heck are we going to watch every child every minute? We can't do what we're doing now. You're talking about setting up profiles. Let me tell you something. We've got to stop them. When children learn you don't do it or you're going to be punished, and punish is forever, then it'll work. Discipline is the key here.
Too.
Let me tell you something.
And by the way, thank God for the prosecutor. For some reason, you have something against this man, and he's there doing his job.
The profile is an adolescent with a knife or a pistol. That's the profile.
They sure were.
The authorities did not exercise. They're the responsible culprits.
These are the excellent credentials of the people, the liberal pukers who have gotten us in this trouble in the first place. Come on. For 40 years, Professor, for 40 years, you creeps have had all these wonderful let's build society again, and you haven't done squat.
37 states.
You haven't done squat.
37 states now have a death penalty. How well is it working?
It's not working well at all.
Right.
Because you guys and the ACLU defend the criminal, screw the victim.
Because...
Sorry, Mort.
Because people from the lunatic fringe like you don't know how to, haven't realized yet that
Let me tell you about the lunatic fringe, pal. We're lunatics because we've been putting up with you elitist intellectual bastards for so long who don't make any sense. Don't make any sense. You get committees, you write reports, and you don't do...
Yeah, okay. All right.
Give me back. What's up, pal?
I listen to guys like him with the suit on, and making a good living, and saying we should study these guys. Okay, when you went to school, you studied, you took the books home. Well, you take some of these slime and take them home for 40 years, and let them live in your house. And what? Wait a minute. For the it goes two ways, too. And I see this other fellow over here with a nice southern accent saying how he's going to clean up everybody by hanging 14-year-old kids and making his name hanging 14-year-old kids. I think it's somewhere in between. I think that maybe it's time that the victim had a shot at it, like I had in the Bible.
Unfortunately,
the
victim's dead. The victim's dead,
Valerie.
Valerie.
The family of the victims.
Valerie, come here a second. Here's the family of a victim. Here's the family of a victim. What about your sister?
We were just talking about
what
this.
About your sister?
She's dead. Now, if this man gets out of prison, my father, I can tell you, is going to spend his life trying to kill this man.
Well,
so then I worry about that. That's ridiculous. This is the state's problem. They should be putting these people to death.
We're going to come back in just a second and talk to our audience and talk to some other folks who've had some real problems. Stand by. Let me come back to Valerie, who's at loudmouth number 2 of this. Valerie, let me ask you a question. Would you tell us what happened to your sister, please?
My sister walked in on Joe Callinger and his 11-year-old son, who were robbing a house and sexually assaulting people in the house. And
with the son?
With his son. And he tied her up and tried to have sex with her. And she refused, and then he asked her to chew off another man's penis. And she refused. She said, "I'd rather be dead." And he killed her. He slit her throat, stabbed her 7 times with his son.
What kind of a man is this, doctor? Someone you'd like to save? Someone you'd like to save, doctor, maybe? Wait a second, please. Let me hear the poor doctor have a chance. Should we save this man, sir?
We should find who's responsible for this man. Now, this was a grown adult, Joseph Callinger.
Yeah, this is a grown adult.
Well, then he should be held responsible,
so
unless he has been ruled insane.
So you'd be in favor of this?
He has not been ruled insane.
My point
he
is
was not ruled insane, so you'd be in favor. So you'd be in favor of the death penalty.
Here's my point, Mort. If your dog kills somebody, the dog can be taken, but the one who's responsible is you.
So who's responsible?
So you're the one
for
who
this guy?
has to be. You're the one who has to be held accountable.
So who's responsible for Joe?
Well, Joe Callinger is an adult. He's responsible for himself.
So we have him, don't we?
So I have no problem with that. But in my house, I'm responsible for my children. Maybe in your house, you're not responsible for your children.
No,
I'm responsible for mine.
I'm responsible for mine to a certain age.
He's 17 years
so
old.
You would like,
and I tell
so you
him
would
I
like
know
every.
more than
Wait
you.
a second. You would like every parent whose 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old kid kills someone to be responsible. Hang the parent, right?
What I'm saying is these
You
stories
said that we're
do not
responsible.
come out of nowhere. The Callinger family was known to authorities. Your kid was known to authorities. They were a risk factor to the rest of us, and you acted irresponsibly. And I can recount cases from my own experience
not able, sir,
where
to
I went
identify-
over
Vicky,
and worked
Vicky,
on cases.
Vicky.
And I said, this person's at risk to be killed. She's going to die. Do something.
Taking
Nothing
the
happened.
responsibility off
Vicky,
of
let
the
me
killer
hear it.
is what's wrong with this country. You don't want them to be responsible for their own acts. That's why it keeps occurring. You have to take responsibility and the consequences of what you do.
Let me ask you a question, Vicky, let me ask you a question. Listen, let me ask you a question about your daughter's boyfriend. Had anyone ever reported that he was a bad guy to the cops?
No,
Had he ever been in jail?
no,
Ever been picked up for shoplifting?
never,
Had he ever taken drugs?
no,
He hadn't done any of those things.
no.
Where the hell's your profile there, doctor?
I'll tell you what, Mort. You give me the guy's school records, you give me his hospital records, I bet you I'll find something.
The problem was...
Psychologists, they'll always find...
He couldn't take rejection, and he thought violence was the way to solve that. And he thought he could get away with it.
Valerie, I got to ask you something. The guy was an adult who killed your sister. Assuming Dr. Seglin here can turn Charles Manson into Donny Osmond, I mean, well, would the age make any difference in executing the killing?
Whatsoever. I see it that these children are never going to be healthy in society again. And if they are going to take a life, they have to be responsible. And maybe the next 5 children, or as you call them children, if they hear what's going to happen to them, they'll think twice before they do that. They will not do it.
Jim, before I go to our audience, let me ask you, Jim. I mean, you've been involved in the execution, the prosecutor's office of a teenager. Were you and your fellow prosecutors worried about your Con Ed bill kind of going crazy when you recommended that electric ride into heaven?
We weren't worried about the cost of prosecuting the case. We were making an example. We didn't have pin-headed liberals to point this person out for us in advance. It's a shame that there wasn't one there to point the fellow out for this lady.
All right,
These people that tell you that they can profile, it's ridiculous.
Well, let me talk to these young men.
I am an average 18-year-old American teenager. I have friends who are 25 years old and older, yet I act more mature than any of them, and you could say that I'm not responsible for my own actions? If I kill somebody, I am responsible for my own actions.
That I would exercise and hold myself responsible and say you have to do what I have to tell you because you're my son and I'm supporting you and
I am more mature than all these people that I know. And
boy, are you living in ancient history time.
But I can't control mine.
Say more. What you're doing, what you got to understand, you're doing is undermining vested authority when you start saying, let's just kill them all. Because what happens...
What's the vested authority?
What happens is...
Come on, stop being a hypocrite. Stop being a hypocrite. Stop being a hypocrite. What's the vested authority?
Manson, not whether I can turn him into Downey Osmond, how did he get created? He was in state institutions all his life.
Well, let me ask you a question.
How did he get created? That's the question you got to ask about
say the
Manson.
vested authority. Wait a second, let me hear this. The doctor says the vested authority, right? The vested authority in who? The parent? In the parent? What is the parent's vested authority of a 15-year-old? 15-year-old, let's say. What is my vested authority of a 15-year-old? My 15-year-old decides she or he is going to do something they want. What's my vested authority?
If you're 15
do I
or
have
16,
total authority
where
over
do you
my
go to court?
15-year-old?
Where will you be? What kind of court will you be tried in?
Well,
what kind of court will you go? You'll go to family court.
Let me ask
You'll
you
be
about...
held responsible,
yes. Let me ask you... I'll be held responsible. I'll be held responsible.
You'll go before a review
Isn't that the most hypocritical thing you've ever heard? I mean, my daughter has to have my permission to get her ears pierced, right? At 15.
I don't think we're concerned
at
about
15,
ears
she
piercing.
does, doesn't she?
We're talking about
she doesn't have to have my permission to get an abortion. Where the hell is my vested authority? I have none. I have none. I have none. That's bull. That's bull. Let me speak to the...
Your statement about responsibility is way off base. I tried to sue the parents of my daughter's killer, and the state protects them. They are not held responsible for the acts of their minor child.
Well,
so you're way off base. That's
if I
ridiculous.
understand, you're...
Let me hear from this man.
Morton, may I ask the doctor something?
Vicky, if I understand it, he was 18, no?
Let me hear
That's
from this
right,
man.
but they raised him and they formed him till his 18th birthday, and they're still not responsible.
Doctor, I'm getting a little confused. I've heard the lecture from you. I haven't heard what happens to the guy who does the crime as yet. You keep saying the state is wrong and the parents are, but what is the punishment that is meted out? Aside from saying, well, we think society maybe did this or activated it or whatever the hell they did, what are you going to do to punish to answer the crime? What do you suggest is done? No, I'd like him to answer because so far he's dodged every answer. I'd just like to know what the answer is.
Well, I assume that we punish him.
Well, how would you punish him? Well, you're giving us a lecture about our morality, what we should do, how we should behave to these murderers. That's okay. You're a psychologist.
No, I'm not saying how we should behave. What I'm saying to you is be very careful, because if you focus in on retarded teenagers, who you're taking off the hook are the school authorities, hospital authorities, criminal justice authorities.
Was your daughter's killer a retarded teenager?
There you go, Mort. You take one example.
No, that's what you guys been doing. What you guys been doing, Phil. That's what you guys have been doing. For 40 years, you guys have been doing that. For 40 years, you've loaded us with all your liberal crap. It hasn't worked. It hasn't worked, pal.
I'll tell you who commits. I'll tell you who commits the murders.
Who commits them?
The people who commit the murders are the retarded, the poor, the indigent.
Come on.
Those are the ones that commit the murder. Those are the ones that commit the murder.
You're so full of crap. Get your statistics right. We'll go to the audience. They know a hell of a lot better. Stand by. Let's go. last question. One last question for our guests, and I want our audience to get in here. And here's the question, right? Let's all talk about capital punishment for just 1 second, all right? And let's talk about it as a deterrent, and I want you to respond individually. If people knew that after committing a heinous, premeditated murder, they were going to get swift justice, swift execution without regard to racial prejudice, as sometimes is done, do you then think that capital punishment would be a deterrent to murder?
Can't be done. It's just impossible to be done. The way our system works in this country, everybody's entitled to a fair trial. The prosecutor will agree. Then if you're convicted, you get an appeal. You can take your appeal up through the state courts and then through the federal courts. You can go to the United States Supreme Court. There are people on death row 8, 9, 10 years. They go to the Supreme Court 3 and 4 times. So you're talking about something more which simply won't exist in this country. As far as I'm concerned, should never exist. We can't.
All right. Well, Jim?
Let me make one suggestion. Congress needs to move capital cases to the top of the dockets on the federal side so that they're dispensed with. People need to remember what the crimes were when the punishment comes about. It needs to be swift, and if it were, it would be a deterrent.
Well, I would say most people in your audience don't even know whether there's capital punishment in the state of New Jersey. These are all New Jersey residents, I assume.
No, they're not. So, typical of the assumptions, typical of the assumptions of the elitists. Professor?
All right. I don't think it would serve. I don't think it would serve as a deterrent to juveniles, because I believe that children are drawn to that which is dangerous. They're drawn to that which is a risk. I know that that's the way I grew up, and that's the way we all grew up. And when there's that little added element, when there's that added element when there's that added danger, that makes it all the more delicious and all the more exciting, particularly when we're talking about people
That's ridiculous.
who are unbalanced.
Amazing how we talk to the victims of murder, right? And therefore it, and those who have never been touched by it don't want anything to happen.
That's exactly right. And, you know, we keep talking about what it's going to do. I want to tell you something. I think my parents deserve to know that Joe Callinger and his son are dead. I really believe it. The victims need to know that justice is done.
If it's not a deterrent, why do these criminals try so hard to cover their tracks? Why do they go to the bother of wearing gloves to conceal all fingerprints? They are terrified of getting caught, and it always amuses me to hear them say, "But I don't want to die."
The person that our brave prosecutor prosecuted tried to escape in a taxi cab, took it to his father's house. That's somebody who's very capable of thinking far ahead about what's going to happen to him, isn't it? That's the kind of person we put to death. That's somebody who's covering his tracks. That's an example of what I'm talking about when we say that they are not capable of viewing their consequences when you're dealing with somebody who has an IQ of 67.
So we have to be responsible for them?
Come on now, come on.
Let's go to the audience.
For a criminal now?
Let's go to the audience, all right? Because now we're being made responsible for everyone who can't think for themselves.
Well, I'll tell you what I think. I mean, I think capital punishment and everything is I'm for it. But I'll tell you this, I think they should take these pukes back to the scenes of the crime where they committed it and give them a taste of what the hell they did.
Yeah!
What right do they have to take another person's life? Who the hell do they think they are?
Okay, pal.
I'm from New York, and I just like to say, teenagers should get the death penalty. Otherwise, what's to stop them from doing it again? We ought to put the fear into them before they start putting the fear into us.
All right, pal.
Now he says that the death penalty is inhumane. All right. Why don't we cut some of their hands or their feet off? They'll never kill again.
All right, let me, young lady, step up here to the front. We haven't had a woman's point of view.
Okay, I like to say that, for one, psychologists are one of the main reasons for what's going on, because, for one, psychology is not an exact science. If you took 5 psychologists and 1 mentally ill person, they come up with 5 different diagnoses. And I'll tell you, the new one they got now...
And the mentally ill person would probably diagnose the psychologist as mentally ill.
And the newest one the psychologists have got now is postpartum blues. If you got that, you can kill your infant, and it's okay.
Okay.
Unbelievable. First, I feel bad for Mrs. Crompton over here, what happened to her daughter. Okay, but I got a question here for the psychologist over here. Obviously, if this is all premeditated, obviously they're sick to begin with. Why? How come we're going to do something with these people to begin with in any event, all right? If something like this is going to happen, we got to believe an eye for an eye, all right? We got to get Governor Cuomo from New York, okay, or Tom Keene from Jersey here, and bring back the death penalty. None of this would ever happen to begin with, all right? Do something about that. If these people covering up with gloves and obviously with their shoes, obviously they're sick to begin with, okay? If they're 15, 16, 17 years old, obviously, if they're going to think like adults, they should be tried like adults to commit adult crimes.
Wait a minute, you just went from their being sick to their thinking like adults. That's my very point, and I think that's the professor's point.
Correct.
Phil's point is that we don't know enough about what the states of minds are. I don't know enough.
No, so let's wait until Vicky has 3 more daughters who get killed. Then maybe we'll know enough. Jim, you want to say something?
Not really. I think that he's doing an excellent job.
Murderers and perpetrators of violent crime, they almost all have histories. And that is where I have seen 20 years of irresponsibility on the part of authorities of the state and members of the media.
Okay, obviously...
I want this man to come up. I want this man with the chains. I want to hear from him next. Come on up, sir. Come on up.
First of all, I don't know too many retarded people who commit crimes anyway, so I think we should start blaming retarded people. Second of all, I wasn't killed, but I was mugged, and I'm blind in this eye right today. I suffer with pain every day of my life, and I think the son of a so-and-so who did it should be hung up from that rope you took up there before.
All right. All right. Go ahead, man.
I got one thing to say. Man has been killing man for thousands of years. With liberal politicians such as Mario Cuomo, there are many people roaming the streets in New York right now who should be behind jail for the rest of their lives. I say, go by what the Bible says. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth.
All right. All right. All right. Tell you what we're going to do. We're going to break, and we'll be right back. Before I go back to the audience, one question for the good doctor, all right, doctor? Let's assume we can come to a compromise. Would you agree to surgical blinding of murderers so they can't see?
What?
Keep his eye out.
I must say, my stomach quails a little bit at that. Where are we going with this?
Let me say this, surgical blinding.
I feel that we can do a lot more in controlling their behavior, and we do run into civil liberties issues.
A lot more if you blind them.
I would probably be on your side of the civil liberties. I think we can do a lot more with the technology we have to control the behaviors of these people that put us at risk.
Certainly control them a lot better if they're blind.
Well, I have trouble with that. I have a blind child, to be honest.
You have a blind child?
Yeah, I have real trouble with that.
All right. Well?
I'd just like to propose somewhat of a compromise as well. You can't have a line down the middle and say hang them all on one side, and at the same time you can't say, you know, bleeding heart for the rest of them on the other side. We have judges and juries in this country, go over each case, and if the jury of your peers decides that the crime you committed in the particular circumstances deserves the punishment of death, then that opportunity should be left open.
Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Sorry, Mort, I just wanted to make it back. I still never got an answer from the doctor. What does the doctor profess that we do?
Quickly now, you got 20 seconds.
That's the point. I don't have a simple answer for you on this.
Okay, then, doctor, while we've still got a couple of seconds, may I say something?
Well, we have to...
Stop telling us what to do with them, and let society handle them, okay?
All right. Look, I have as much respect for the dignity of human life as anyone in this room. But when it comes to people who have proven to have absolutely no respect for human life by killing someone, I say they get what they deserve, death. I don't care if the killer's as cute as a button or a pit bull puppy. They kill too. Kill them back. Good night, everybody.
Want more than just packaged music videos? Watch Hit Raider's Heavy Metal Meltdown, the hard rock TV magazine that goes behind the scenes with interviews, news, fact-filled features, exclusive concert action, rarely seen classic footage, and videos at the top of the charts. Hit Parader's Heavy Metal Meltdown, Saturday night at 12:30 on Channel 9.